You're listening to Todd Starnes.
On the Newsmaker line, Kellyanne Conway, a friend of the program. Kellyanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Todd.
By the way, Kellyanne, you can tell the president this radio program, we stand for the national anthem. There's none of this taking a knee around this place.
Well, it's much appreciated. I know that 12% of the NFL players took a knee on Sunday or protested in some way, but 88% did not. And, you know, there are very few things that seem to bind our nation these days, and the flag and the principles on which this country was founded are among them. And so we respect people's First Amendment rights, no doubt, but at the same time, the president has made very clear that he respects the flag and everything that it stands for, the men and women who have given their service and in many cases the ultimate sacrifice so that you and I can have this conversation right now.
Kellyanne, I know it's certainly beneath the president to respond to the likes of Hillary Clinton, but I want you to hear what Hillary said about the president, and I'd like to get your response.
He attacks black athletes, as he did, starting with his rally in Alabama, continued on Twitter, and he attacks them for protesting peacefully for equality, for standing up for what they believe. And he does it, once again, to dog whistle to his base and to try to detract attention from other things that are going on. But it's quite telling that he is willing to attack black athletes. He never says anything of an insulting manner toward white supremacists or neo-Nazis or Ku Klux Klanners.
Kelly, your reaction to that?
That Hillary Clinton just won't do anything constructive with the balance of her life. I don't quite know what to say. The president said very clearly that his comments were not about race or about and his press secretary yesterday said very nicely that these comments were not against anyone. They're for something. They're for the flag, for the national anthem, for respecting the nation and many veterans, frankly, many active military and veterans who have sacrificed. As for Secretary Clinton, I will just tell you, as a grown-up myself and a female, someone who shares her gender but very little else in common with her. For example, I work in the White House. Self-awareness is a very important quality, and you've got so many Democrats across the country, including here in Washington, D.C., who are very, not so quietly, rolling their eyes and just openly wishing that she would move on a little bit, get some introspection, and do something more constructive. I mean, this is a woman who has a very big platform, one would think, to do well and to do good in the next chapter of her life. And there are many people across this country who are suffering, some because of the last 8 years' policy. And it would be really great for someone like that who says she has a calling in public service to put her voice and her energies there as well.
Speaking of moving on, I do want to ask you about tax reform and also this health care debate. But Grover Norquist, in a column on Fox News, says this is a must-win for Republicans. Talk to us about the status of tax reform.
It's a must-win for the country. I mean, we haven't had major tax relief and tax cuts in 36 years. In more than a generation. And why that's significant is our country punishes American businesses for creating jobs here. Those jobs and the wealth get shipped legally overseas. We have $2.8 trillion parked overseas legally because American companies are taxed to the hilt when it comes to their responsibilities under our current tax code. That has to stop because they're the job creators, they're the wealth creators for people in this country. And then, of course, this is a huge middle-class tax relief package. This is meant to help those who are the job holders and also the job seekers, folks who find the tax burden, the regulatory burden so oppressive that they've either stopped looking for work or they don't feel like it's even a good deal for them to do that in large degree. We also just have to make it easier and simpler. The tax code currently favors the wealthy and the privileged, those who can hire attorneys and accountants to help them navigate this Byzantine and overly complicated structure, and in some cases, those who can hire lobbyists to make the tax code more favorable for them. So it's just incredibly important to make this country more competitive around the globe, and the president is doing that through a combination of measures. He really has already done so much to try to cure the trade imbalances. He's done so much to encourage American businesses to not ship those jobs and shutter the factories here and ship the jobs overseas, to keep their business, literally keep their business here. And we know that when the job creators get a tax break, they pass on those savings by and large to the consumers and certainly to the employees by way of investing back into the company, buying more inventory, improving the infrastructure, the office space, the equipment, perhaps, giving benefits to their employees, increasing their job security and indeed their wages. So this is a win-win for America. I think what my friend Grover Norquist is probably talking about is that Republicans failed up on Capitol Hill to do what they promised to do for 7 or 8 years, which is repeal and replace Obamacare. They had voted on it dozens and dozens of times. They finally get a president in the White House who's willing to sign it into law, and they don't get it to his desk. So Grover and others are probably feeling the frustration, if not the consternation, that this is that not by accident, quite by purpose, the country voted in a Republican House, Senate, and indeed White House so that the exclusive divided government would be over and that progress would occur. So this president stands ready to repeal and replace Obamacare and to put into motion and indeed into law the largest, most massive tax relief package that we've seen ever.
And Kellyanne, real quick on health care, what should the American people be doing? I mean, many of them are very frustrated at their elected leaders just not being able to get anything done. So what does the president need the people to do?
Well, remember, this is legislative in nature. The president is relying upon Congress, which makes the laws in this country, to make a law that is different from the Obamacare that has left 29 million Americans with no health care coverage whatsoever, that watched premiums skyrocket in the state of Alaska, where you have a sitting senator, the senior senator there is currently a no or on the fence, I suppose, Ms. Murkowski. You have the premiums have exploded over 200%. You have other states where I think I would urge your callers to call their senators and their members of Congress and say, we'd like you to make good on your promise. It wasn't just Donald Trump who ran on repealing and replacing Obamacare. It was each and every one of you. We can roll the tape and show every single time you said repeal and replace Obamacare. Are these bills perfect? No. Are they the beginning of the end of Obamacare? Yes. Do they give much-needed relief to many Americans who have been suffering? Yes, absolutely. It expands health savings accounts. It allows you to use those monies in your private health care account in ways that has never been done before. It allows governors more say over the Medicaid dollars, because those who are closest to those in need understand how to distribute the dollars best. If you're in a state that's tackling the opioid epidemic and you want to commit more of your dollars to that, you as the governor can do that. If you're a state that has a very large Medicaid population and there are reimbursements for prescription drugs or for certain therapies, fine. If you've got an elderly population, in other words, every governor knows best. That goes for Democrats and Republican governors, how best to serve the people in their states. Let's get the money closer
Indeed.
to the patient. So we need folks to light up the phones, get the social media and emails going, because this is not a man who gives up. Anybody who bets against Donald Trump and ever thinks that he just throws his hand up in the air and waves the white flag of surrender is just wrong. He's ready, pen in hand, to repeal and replace Obamacare. We need the Senate and the House to do their job.
All right, Kellyanne, we've got to take a break. I really appreciate you calling in, and I tell you what, our listeners, they will light up the phones for you. They will definitely do that.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Todd. All the best.